All right. War of the Worlds, the 50s version. So, this is the first War of the Worlds adaptation from H.G. Wells. And then we got the Spielberg movie in the 2000s. And then we got, like, so many different other versions. Like, you know, they actually did a short-lived TV series where they actually set it in Victorian time. And then they decided, hey, let's do a COVID shot movie over Zoom starring Ice Cube. And, well, we all know how that turned out. But it's interesting to see, you know, War of the Worlds go from something like this to then Ice Cube sitting in front of a green screen during COVID, just reacting to things very terribly. But anyway, but this is the one that started it. So the main difference in here is they don't set it during the Victorian era, which is where the book takes place. They said, all right, we're going to put this into modern day, which at the time is 1953. And they kind of make it like we must fight against the aliens. Very much kind of, that was kind of what was going on at the time, was the whole, like, you know, Area 51, you know, the 50s, you know, we're getting all this stuff like The Thing from Another World or It Came from Outer Space and this, where it was very much, you know, we must fight against them, we must unite, and, you know, humans are the heroes. And it wasn't until, you know, decades later where something like Spielberg's version said, yeah, that's kind of going on in the background, but this is more of a survival movie where we're just focusing on this one kind of dysfunctional family and them just going through everything. And that one was more realistic, I would say. But then again, this one also feels realistic because you also have that certain group of people that are very much like, if, you know, UFOs came down and was very much kind of like this, where it would be kind of like we must fight the enemy, we must fight them. And then you have another branch of people going like, we just want to survive. Like, we want to get out of this. We just want to live. Like, just get out of Dodge Way and let all the fighting humans do all the work. And so this one is more or less a fight back movie than a survival movie. And for the most part, it still holds up. I remember when I first saw this, I saw Spielberg's version first, but I think it was because that one came out fairly recently, if I recall. But then when I was doing, you know, research and stuff, I then found this was like maybe like almost a decade ago. And I enjoy it. It's not one where I'm like, okay, do I think this is the best version of all of the, like, War of the Worlds stuff? Well, I haven't seen that TV series they did, and I've only seen, like, this Spielberg's film and the Ice Cube movie. And I think, for the most part, this one is closer, mainly due to the fact that both this and Spielberg's film, they set them in modern day, and Ice Cube's, but this one was kind of more like a little more accurate to what they were doing, but they still changed quite a bit. And I think because a lot of the movies that were coming out during this time, like I said, a lot of the movies that were coming out during this time, they were taking, you know, books or properties and kind of fiddling with them to kind of make them work in the time that they were living in. Like Thing from Another World, that is a prime example. But this was also kind of during the era when we were getting a lot of those B movie, like the B-50s, like movies coming out, and 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 a lot of them were just we're just dealing with giant things, like whether it be like Them, where it's killer ant or giant ants, or something like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Like we were getting kind of that stuff. Where with this one, it's going, okay, we're dealing with aliens this time. How are we going to deal with it? And for the most part, I think they do a good job, because I think, you really should, especially with like these older films, you really need to look at like the time period of when they made this, and the fact that, aliens really weren't, done yet. It was kind of like this movie and like a couple of other movies that were coming out around this decade that were really like setting the groundwork for future alien films. But they all kind of had the same idea, where it's humans are the heroes, they're fighting against them. That's what like stuff like Mars Attacks was parodying. Now, whether you like that movie or not like that movie, that's up to you, but that's kind of what it was doing. It was going back to like those very like campy 50s alien invasion films, and this is kind of what they were parodying. So, and we wouldn't get like generations of like all these other alien films if it really wasn't for this. So this really set the groundwork for that. Performances, I think, are really, really good. They feel very real. The effects, especially for the time period, are pretty impressive. They're very impressive. Like the saucers, I'm very happy that when I first saw this, I was kind of in the camp of going, okay, these saucers, there's just going to be like little flat pancakes, and I was like, that's kind of the like not stereotypical, but like the cliche what they look like, and these ones don't. And it's like, all right, that's kind of cool. I like that. It's very, very simplistic, but it works. It's very effective. Even the aliens themselves, while I think they look a little goofy, for a time period, they look pretty impressive. They look pretty effective. And so, I think a lot of this still holds up. While I think the big issue I have is the fact that, they set it in modern day, I still think, I like these people a lot more than something like Spielberg's version, where, his kids are just kind of like, yeah, you need to just stop talking, please. Thank you. But they looked at this one especially. They were kind of going, all right, we're going to kind of be like the Victorian thing, but not so much. But with this one, I think it does a good job at setting the groundwork, because another thing too is that back then they really didn't care, or they didn't really give a shit about, getting the adaptation done correctly and being accurate. They really didn't care about that. It's not like today where, people can dissect, if a movie's based on a book or a comic book or anything, people can dissect that and basically go on a rant saying like, yeah, you got this wrong. Hell, I've done that. But, there was no Twitters, no social media. It seemed like a much better time. But, for the most part, I think this movie does a really good job. From the performances are really good. They're very real. I like how it was very much like, like how would people react in this situation. And, even the effects for the time period, they look really well done, because, there's a lot of time where I'm watching an old film like from the 50s, and I'm just going like, man, those effects suck. But I'm like, I gotta think at the time period, like they had to figure all this stuff out. It wasn't like this was like there was a blueprint already. This is the blueprint that then got better over time. So, I would give this a great. If they were a little more accurate to the Victorian era, then maybe this get bumped up. But, for the fact that this one's setting the groundwork for what aliens can become in in movies and television and just in media. And the fact that, this still holds up, about 70 years later is very, very impressive. And it is a very, very good watch.